We hear a lot about being authentic and real as a brand, and it's easy to say it, but a lot harder to do it. The question is, when push comes to shove, what will you do? How will you respond when the going gets tough? Hello and welcome to the CMO Show. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mark Jones. The CMO Show is a podcast produced by ImpactInstitute in partnership with our friends at Adobe. Now, today we have something a little bit different and certainly very colourful. TradeMutt is a workwear brand. It's for tradies, for carpenters and plumbers and electricians, all these amazing people who keep our world working. And it is a workwear brand that combines all the high colour sort of fluoro style clothing that you might expect to see on a trade site with a little twist. Really interesting design, and it's really focused on making a difference in men's mental health, raising awareness of suicide, and also has a not-for-profit arm that provides free counselling. It's an amazing story about a couple of tradies that decided to do something. Really, really interesting insight into how they went about building the business, of course, how they market their product and the way they think about how they engage with a really unique target audience that we don't talk a lot about on the CMO Show. So my guest is Ed Ross. He's co-founder and a director at TradeMutt. Let's hear what he's got to say. Ed, thank you so much for joining me. I want to dive straight into it. First of all, I've done a bit of research. You are rocking the What Are You Looking At territory sleeve work shirt. Do you want to tell me a bit about the shirt? Tell me a bit about TradeMutt for people who don't know what's going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. This is actually July's release, to be honest, but it's okay. You're very close. What Are You Looking At is the most recent one. So yeah, and they do look a little bit similar. So it's a TradeMutt shirt I've got on today. It's one of our TradeMutt products. The territory sleeves is normally my Monday shirt because I don't have to go into the office, so I can be a bit more relaxed at home. But yeah, TradeMutt work shirts. They're conversation starters, funky work shirts that we make high-vis as well to help start conversations around mental health and wellbeing on job sites around the country and help make the invisible impossible to ignore.
Where's home for you?
Mate, I live up in Toowoomba. Our office for TradeMutt's in Darra, and TAX, the non-profit, is based in Toowong, so sort of southeast Queensland.
Yeah, I saw the hat there. So that stands for This is a Conversation Starter for those playing at home, correct?
Yeah, well, it was the acronym to start with, but we're just running TAX as TAX now as a marketing person. Yeah. It was kind of the start of it was to bridge the gap between the bar logo on the back of the TradeMutt shirts and then the non-profit. But TAX as an entity doesn't really start conversations. The people reaching out to it does. So we're kind of just sticking with TAX now, but it was definitely the genesis of the start of it.
Yeah. So what does that service do, or what services do you provide?
Yeah, so TAX is an early intervention counselling service, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Via telehealth, text and call, and it's designed specifically for Australia's blue-collar community and their loved ones. Its point of difference is that you speak to the same counsellor every time you reach out. So it's as if you're going and seeing a psych or a counsellor in person. You go back and normally have a session with them kind of more than once, and they understand your story and why you're there and what your presenting needs are. And that's exactly the same with TAX. You just speak to that same counsellor every time, and you get up to 8 sessions every year. And on average, people are using it 4 times at the moment, which is great. So continued use of service, which is awesome. And a big point of difference as well is that there's no more than a 2-week waiting period for your first full session, and you speak to a counsellor on the day you do reach out. So yeah, really important stuff.
It's amazing. Now, I reached out to you guys because I've been actually tracking you for a little while now. Your co-founder, Daniel Allen, is a brother of an old mate, Tom, of mine, who I used to work with in media way back in the day.
Oh, there you go.
So I've been aware of you. And in particular, I've seen a real increase in reach in social over sort of the last few years, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
But before we get into sort of the marketing or like how the whole thing's working, I'd love to understand a little bit about the background between yourself and Dan. Like, tell me about that backstory, and like I think that's really the key to this whole story.
Yeah, so we both come from very different backgrounds. I'm from Central Queensland, grew up on sheep and cattle stations out near Longreach. Dan's from inner western suburbs of Sydney, and we met on a building site at the end of 2014. He was a licensed tradie. He'd moved up to Brisbane on Mother's Day a few years before. Yep. 2014. He just wanted to start working for a new builder, wanted a little bit more of a fresh start. And he moved up just with an overnight bag basically and never went home. And he started working, for the same builder I did on the same day in 2014. I was the start of my journey, mature age carpentry apprenticeship. And as the two new blokes on site, we got lumped together to do all the shit jobs. And having all the knowledge and myself having a wealth, a hunger for knowledge, and him having the wealth of it was, a really good partnership to start off with. So we did lots of work together, working for a builder and, conversing about different business ideas and what we'd do one day, because actually starting a building business didn't look all that appealing because everyone that we kind of knew that were running building businesses were stressed and their marriages or relationships weren't in great places, and we didn't really aspire to really replicate any of that. And an idea that we did have was workwear. No one really done anything with workwear before, and we felt there was a really big opportunity to do something there. And that was just kind of an idea. And then at the end of 2015, Dan lost a mate to suicide. Very unexpectedly. Dan got a phone call when we were working together on a Thursday afternoon, and was informed that his mate was starting a mature age carpentry apprenticeship on the Monday, and Sunday morning he was no longer with us. And that was a moment in time that affected Dan and I differently. I never met Dan's mate. I didn't know him, and Dan had obviously lost a very close mate completely out of the blue, and not to the narrative in which he was kind of told. And with him just expecting him to be starting this new job on the Monday and him no longer being there, it was quite a shock. And so then we're going through the motions after that, basically, of me trying to support Dan while he's rolling into work, and Dan trying to go through that grieving process and then kind of figure it out. And we just quickly realised that there was a massive issue around this mental health piece. And talking to marketing, we felt that it was being marketed really, really poorly. We felt that it was being marketed in a way that when we first started, there was this kind of expectation or ideology that if you said the wrong thing, someone's just going to hurt themselves. So you're better off saying nothing. You know what I mean? Like, just don't say anything. It might trigger someone. And we're like, that's just insane. Like, that's not reality. And we saw the way that mental health as a topic had been really branded with these words that we never use, but I'll use it now to explain it, like the word stigma. We're like, well, that's in and of itself a massive problem. Just stop using that word. Yeah. And the bus shelters that Dan often talks about, see a photo of a room and like a bloke, sitting on the floor in a dark lit room and his head in his hands. It's kind of like personifying depression. And we're like, that's not what any of this shit looks like. If it was what it looked like, why would anyone want to associate with it? And so we felt there was an opportunity to really put a new spin on this whole thing. And it kind of rolled back into the workwear as an idea. And we learned about social enterprise and profit for purpose. And we thought, holy shit, we might be able to actually do something where we start our own business and actually create some social change and kind of change the narrative here. And
yes,
that was it. That was the birth of TradeMutt.
I mean, that's an amazing story. And I did see that Dan has got a TED Talk from Brisbane where he shared a bit of that story. So I mentioned that in case the listener wants to look up Daniel Allen TEDx Brisbane to hear that full story. I think what's amazing to think about this in a few chunks. Firstly, you've got that trigger moment, which of course is tragedy, and then looking for some sort of redemption. Like, how do we've got to do something, and I really love that. You've just spoken about a huge disconnect, because this is obviously a marketing show where we think about marketers often take great pride in understanding their customers and understanding their audiences and having messages and words that really connect. And it is quite stunning to reflect on just how much of a disconnect there was at that time from other parties, whether it was well-meaning government departments or, who knows what, right? and then through to actually doing something about it. I think, just at the very simple level, to have gone from we should do something to actually make it happen. Least of all, that we're now here. What is it? 10 years you've been going since?
TradeMutt turns 8 in March. So
yeah. So, starting it and keeping it going. So there's like so many tick boxes here. You're from the trades too, as you were saying. Another quick connection point too. My eldest son is second year apprentice chippy.
Oh, awesome.
So, and I've met all of his mates. They're built like the side of a house. They've got really, very clear and direct way of talking. And one of the things I like about the culture, if you like, or the community of people in the trades is that they don't muck around in terms of the clarity of speaking and what they mean or what they don't mean, unless, of course, they're having fun and winding someone up or, stealing the apprentice's wheels off his car or whatever the prank is of the day, right? So that whole thing, the comedy side is quite high too. What's your thoughts now that you're this far into it in terms of why is it so hard for people in the mental health professions and even more broadly in corporate to understand the language and the psyche of people in the trades? Why do you think there's been that disconnect in the past, and I think still to this day, really not quite getting it? What's your take on that?
I think personally, it's very much an us and them thing. There's too much of a gap because I think, for me personally, I think I can put it into two brackets, like men and then also trade-based men. It's kind of like not. I don't think it's definitely not like feeling like you're the victim. That's definitely not it. But it feels like you're kind of out on your own a little bit. And it's hard and difficult, and people can't kind of understand really what your work life and life is kind of like unless you've lived it. And so these kind of like white collar professionals are kind of saying, hey, tradies, you need to start doing this shit, or, you're not going to be, they're like, get fucked. Like, we don't care. You know what I mean? Like they just will not listen. And we even find that from our perspective, like we've got to go in and be ourselves to them, drop some F-bombs, be on the level, speak the language. Otherwise, they can pretty quickly feel as though we're not on the same level. And so that's like an important thing, even like on the TX side, like our counselors, they're encouraged to be a bit looser over the phone, to have that sort of personal feel, to be like, oh, I can swear, or I can sort of like be that flexible person to ensure that this person feels safe to talk to me. And I think for us, we've had the cut through and lack of a better term, sort of success in breaking through to the trade community, because we're not trying to be anyone that we're not. I'm not a mental health professional. I don't pretend to be a mental health professional. All we're trying to do is just change the culture around help-seeking behavior and provide the actual mental health service through TX if and when they need it. So that's kind of it. We're not here sort of virtue signaling, being like, hey, you've got to drink your green tea and run 10K before you go to work every day. It's like, no, you just got to make sure that you're not going to hurt yourself. And if you do want to improve yourself and well-being, we've got a way for you to kind of start that, but also just be there for yourself and your mates.
It's interesting with the connection through to the shirts from that idea, because they're very bold. There's these really interesting designs. The workwear shirts were bright enough already. So, to do something in that space is really, really interesting. Tell me about how that was such a breakthrough idea. Like, what was the moment where you're like, why don't we just take this thing that we all see all the time and do something really bold? Because to me that says, well, we get it, but there's still got to be a sense of experimentation, right? Like how did it all come about?
Yeah, so I suppose it was really just a journey of kind of steps where we wanted to do the work shirts. It took us for ages to get something that worked, that actually thought we may be able to sell. Yeah. And then when we finally got our samples and wore them down to a pub on a Thursday afternoon, and people just coming up to us and asking about it, didn't even have this as a conversation starter on them at that time. Like, people just coming up to us and like, holy shit, like, this is actually working. And it's just, we're telling them the idea of what we're doing, and everyone loved it. And it kind of just rolled on from there. And then once we, it was 7 News reached out to us in Brisbane and said they wanted to put us on the telly. And then we launched with that, pre-ordered 1,500 work shirts, and away we went. It was just, it was just crazy, the momentum. But it's funny. It's like the story of this brand is obviously what sells the products and sells everything that we do.
Yeah.
But we're not a business that we can just like go into a boardroom and be like, righto, BHP, you need to roll these shirts out with every single employee you've got. You just cannot do that. But what you can do is give a free shirt to someone that works at BHP, then wear it to a job site on the Monday, and everyone asks them what it is. And where to this day, I was saying this, we were down in Melbourne last week for an all energy conference. And I was like, to this day, I've never pitched this idea to someone about what we do and them say it's a shit idea. After they've come up and asked what the shirt's about, it's like, this is what we do. It's like, that's either amazing or incredible, or it's so interesting or so different or whatever it is, but it's never, that's a shit idea.
Yeah.
And so the beauty, and again, we've just stumbled onto all of this. It's just the beauty of the way these products market themselves is that more shirts or more products sell more shirts and more products and build the community more and more because they're out there, they're visible, and people are telling that story kind of over and over again. And that's sort of that flywheel, continue to spin in the right direction, which is really cool. And it takes the pressure off us trying to have to do anything that's not genuine, really, because if we had to go out and knock on doors and try and sell this thing, then it just would never work.
I mean, it's an amazing story of really classic word of mouth marketing, where the word of mouth just kind of takes off through the media and all these other channels that you mentioned. What does "you'll never walk alone again" mean? What does that mean to you personally?
Yeah. So it's really an ode to Dan's mate that's no longer with us. He was a diehard Liverpool supporter. And it was a classy thing that Dan wanted to do kind of from the get-go as a sort of a memorial of him and a reminder of kind of the catalyst to why we have started this. But it's also turned as kind of like beautiful thing where everyone within our community doesn't walk alone. Once you're a part of the TradeMutt community, there's so many of us out there for each other. And obviously the TX service as well with the QR code underneath the left breast pocket. Like we've got a community of people that are there to help one another, which is a really cool thing and really ties into our brand and brand identity.
You're talking about the fact that this thing kind of took off and that now you've got this story and the layers of the story that are being built around it. Was there any other, issues that you found as it started to take off, like getting people, for example, to actually use the service or to talk about it in a more open way? Because changing culture in any industry is pretty hard. It takes a while.
Yeah, it does take a while. I mean, there's been so many different things. There's challenges every day. I think one of the biggest challenges from a marketing standpoint has kind of been bridging that gap between TradeMutt and TX and have the distinction between what the two services are. And, we often laugh that, there's so many TradeMutt customers that have got no idea what TX is, but we've been talking about TX for 5.5 years. It's just like, people and people's attention, it is quite limited. And we feel as though anything we put out on social media or any email that we send to someone or whatever, we're like, we've put so much time and effort, and clearly it's like, they're going to get this.
Yeah.
And of the, if you get 50% open rate, of that 50% that open it, maybe only 3% of that 50% are actually reading it in detail to actually really understand it or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's right.
Just ever getting these small little sound bites, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of hard for us because we're doing shitloads of stuff. It would be a lot easier if we were just selling work shirts, to be honest, but we're not. We're doing all these things. And so it's funny for us and a marketing standpoint, trying to ensure that we're getting the attention of people and getting the whole story out there. These, opportunities like this to tell this story in depth and with the whole kind of understanding of the step-by-step makes a really big difference. And same with like keynote talks and toolbox talks and being out in front of people. But again, you can't kind of do that at scale. So you kind of, that's the juggling act of kind of where we're at, because we need people's attention, and it is hard to get unless you're in front of them, because there's so many things happening.
Here at the CMO Show, we're celebrating 10 years of podcasting. We are the OG of CMO podcasts, and I'm so glad that you're with us in this community. We'd love you to subscribe to us, of course, in Apple Podcasts, in Spotify. You can find us on LinkedIn. We'd also want to encourage you, if there's a marketer or a CMO in your network that needs to hear one of our episodes, share it. Let them know, because that's how we can grow and how we can connect with more people and make every episode even better. Thanks for being, again, part of this community. I'll speak to you soon. Tell me then about the social side of your work, and by that I mean social media. So it's a huge part of raising that brand awareness. How important has that been for you guys over the past, couple of years?
Oh yeah, I mean, social media has always been kind of the backbone of what we do. I think the thing is that it changes so rapidly. We're often trying new and different things, and you're kind of always towing the line between being edgy and being on trend and all this sort of stuff, and staying genuine. And I think it's just a continual battle, right? Just trying to figure out what does and doesn't work. You can be bashing your head against a wall a lot trying to figure that out. I know we've definitely had that on the TAC side of things. There's been a big sway here and there on the way that we market the TAC service. And yeah, on the TradeMutt side, it's difficult. It'd be a lot easier in a lot of ways if we were doing just one thing, but we're doing so many things that it's kind of, again, that juggling act of, you can't be too edgy because you obviously got the mental health aspect, and you've got to kind of be respectful, and then you can't also be too clinical because we're not clinical, and you can't be here and there. So it's a funny one. It's just a juggling act. You're just trying to always figure it out, I suppose, sort of really week on week.
I wonder, from your point of view, if that's one of these growing pain things that all companies go through, where you start saying, well, how are we going to streamline a lot of this stuff? How are you making those decisions? What are what's the way that the company works? And, is it you and Dan, and a whole team sort of thinking through your marketing? What's the approach that you use?
Yeah, so we've got a marketing team. We've been using an external consultant, Mike Watkins, who was our first ever marketing manager, actually. We've just brought him back on the last couple of months to just kind of create a bit of structure around our social media, which has been good. Then we've just kind of, we meet once a week for an hour, Dan and I with the marketing team, and kind of go through week as it was last week, and then, week ahead. And then we sort of have monthly content ideation sessions, which kind of gives us the freedom to then go and lock some stuff in over the next few weeks. And it does work well. It's just we're at that kind of tipping point. I mean, it's been a bugbear for me personally, because I personally don't want to be in content. Social media is antichrist. I can't stand it. I don't. I've had it on my phone. God, I wouldn't have had social media on my phone for God knows how many years. And if there was a world that exists where I didn't have to ever go on social media again, I'd love to. But it's a necessary evil, sadly. And it's a funny one, because it's kind of like Dan and I need to maintain a level of, forward-facing the brand stuff, but also time, authenticity, remaining genuine. It's kind of like, for me personally, it's kind of, got to a point where it's less is more for me. It's like, go and do other stuff. I don't need to always be in front of the camera, because it's just really not my jam. So it's a funny one where we're at with all of that. It's just again, growing pains really.
Yeah, what are these success metrics you're more interested in? So you talk about going out there. Obviously, you're going to be thinking about revenue, and we haven't really talked about this, but I understand 50% of TradeMutt's profits go to TX. So I'm sure that you've got all sorts of metrics around this. You're staying with social, presumably because it's working and continues to drive things as the necessary evil you said. But again, what are the numbers or the success metrics you care about?
Yeah, so from a paid perspective, it's kind of maintaining our marketing expense ratio and not sort of going too far out of that. it's pretty straightforward there. Is a driving traffic, is a driving clicks, and is a driving sales. And if that's all working, then that's fine. We can kind of play with the creative however we need to there. And then from a organic social media standpoint, it's very much shares and saves. Because we don't care about likes, we don't care about comments. We like shares and saves. Because if you're willing to save something, you care about it. If you're willing to share it with someone, you care about it enough to show someone else. So that's the metrics we're really looking at these days.
Now, tell me about some surprising stories or impact that you've made. I'm kind of, do you have particular favorite examples of how this has made a difference? Because it goes without saying we're talking about a really significant issue, not just within the trades, more broadly. We're seeing mental health being a continued focus for organizations and, still way too many suicides. So I'm sure you've got incredible stories.
Oh, I've got numbers of them, yeah. I think one of the one that always sticks with me when I'm asked this question personally is a bloke down in Tamworth many years ago when we first sort of started. We heard about how he'd lost his mum to cancer, and he and his dad had never really had a conversation about it. And he wore a shirt home one day. Old man pulled him up and said, "What the, what's going on with this shirt?" Well, when he said, "Sit down, Dad, I've got to have a conversation." And he basically sat down for sort of 3 or 4 hours and just had it all out with him, sort of how much it had affected him and how them not being able to communicate it up until this point had kind of been, really painful. And I just remember hearing that story, just being like, holy shit, that's nothing that we ever anticipated to kind of happen. Sort of, really big interventions like that. And we've just had numerous stories like that over the years. That's kind of the first one that ever really struck me for us to be like, wow, this is working. And it didn't have to be about a mental health issue per se, just a conversation needed to be had.
On reflection, this idea of a conversation starter, that first entry point into something that I know for a lot of men in particular is really difficult, like getting them to open up. I mean, that's why we have, Are You Okay Day is a direct reflection of that, right? This idea that actually just starting the conversation is the biggest barrier. How do you then equip and help tradies to take the conversation further? Because there's it's one thing to get over that little, initial hurdle, but it's actually then what, right? You're teaching them to listen, you're teaching them to, or encouraging them to ask more questions perhaps, or if they're not doing well to, suggest they call your service or see their GP. Like you can see there's like a whole cascading series of events there.
Yeah. It's a funny one. For us, it's really, we've never really been driven to help anyone on how to have a conversation. We want that to kind of happen organically, which is, and I mean, it kind of sounds like a cop-out when you say it, but the reason is, again, it's like we just want to remain genuine. If we're there trying to give playbooks to people and like, hey, do this, do that, we feel that people go, oh, what if I don't remember all this sort of stuff? What if I forget something? It's like, well, don't overthink it. Just don't overthink it. Just go and have a conversation with someone. You put the reps in, you'll figure it out kind of as you go along. And if they're ever like, oh, well, what do I do if someone, it's like that's when you get onto TX, and you either reach out to TX on behalf of someone else, or you reach out on behalf of yourself and make that proactive choice. And so we're just trying to remove barriers basically for people to be able to start that journey and really take the complication out of it. Just make it as simple and easy as possible.
I love that. Now, well then just on TX, what was it like setting that up and getting that going again? As a tradie, as a chippy, it's like a whole new world.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're Cert 3 in carpentry and joinery certificates for Dan and I. Like, we've got absolutely no idea about how to set up a telehealth counselling service. But look, it was a burner phone from Woolies, had a grad psychologist that we hired. Dan and I built the office out the back in our warehouse. And we just said, if it rings, answer it. And the phone started ringing. It was basically, working from there. I think that one of the best things for Dan and I over the years is we've been so naive about all of the governance and all the standards and the practice, everything you need to be doing to do it properly, that we're just like, we just want to start and figure it out rather than trying right to then launch it. And that's with both organizations, with TradeMutt and also TX. It's kind of like, well, let's just figure it out as we go. We'd rather start than always talk about starting. And so, TX, oh God, I'd hate to know how much of a shit show it was for the first couple of years when we were running it, but it was kind of like, we'd rather start, get the ball rolling, and, to where it's at now. I did 1,100 clients last financial year, on average 4 sessions per client, 75% of calls are male, relationships, the leading reason for people reaching out. And then over 50% of our callers coming to us through either family and friends, TradeMutt, or workplaces. And our vision for TX is to be the mental health counselling service you tell your mates about. And it's happening. So, yeah, it's really cool. Got 10 counsellors and, a model of care that's designed specifically for the blue collar community. And the feedback on that service is incredible. We just want to remove those physical, financial, social barriers that have previously existed to keep people away from accessing private sector mental health care. And we're just removing all of those things and making it just so easy. And, people can't believe it's free. It also has its challenges because people feel they're not obligated to always attend their appointments. That's a marketing thing we're working on. But, it's pretty incredible to be able to build that service and fund it, through TradeMutt, but also our other industry partners. And to this day, I haven't taken a dollar from the federal government. So we've been able to, build a pretty substantially impactful nonprofit just, by figuring it out on the fly, really.
I love it. The idea that you're from the community, literally doing it for the community, the simplicity there is really inspiring. What advice would you give to people who in their own world or their own community at work can see a similar pattern or an opportunity? What would you say to them, hypothetically, somebody in nursing or finance or any other sector, and they're like, I'd like to kind of do what they're doing, but for our world, what would you say to them?
Get after it. Yeah. Start doing it. Get the ball rolling. Get it happening for sure. There's so many things, social issues out there that need, intervention. I think that the days of expecting the government to sort any of this stuff out is definitely long gone. And if there's something broken, then you need to get in and fix it and not wait on anyone else to do it. That's for sure. What
do you think from an Australian culture point of view might be some of the long-term changes as this happens? Because I do see us becoming a lot more open to conversations like this. It's becoming less of a taboo.
Yeah.
What's your picture of what this might look like into the future?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to have a massive issue with having enough professionals out there to service the demand, to be honest. I just don't think there's going to be enough flow through of people that are qualified to do this. And we're already seeing that now with such a high uptake of people using AI as a counselling service, which is in absolutely has its positives and also has its major dangers as well. Like there's big dangers with that, right? As we know, ChatGPT is always going to tell you whatever you tell it's a good idea. I'm yet to be told anything I've said to it's a bad idea so far. So, they're challenges that we see going forward for sure. But I think the positive thing is that there's going to be a lot of people that are willing to reach out and start that kind of personal development piece, which is awesome. And just really changing that help-seeking behavior and that culture. And also more people are talking about how beneficial it has been to reach out and get help. And that's really how we change the culture and break that cycle of kind of, white knuckling it, really.
So good. Ed Ross, thanks for being my guest on the CMO Show. A really inspiring story, and all the best to you, Dan, and the whole team there.
Thanks, Mark. Really appreciate it.
The thing that's going to stay with me after our interview is not just the clarity and, how bold and clear he is about who they are and what they do, because I think we would expect that when it comes to the trades. What I really appreciated about his story was knowing where their work ends and other people's work begins. So that idea of additional counselling, other psychological services beyond what they provide. They're not looking to expand into other areas. They're looking to stay laser focused on what makes them unique. And I really like that. There's a real strength about sticking to your guns, as it were, sticking to what you're really good at. Of course, a great lesson too in how to figure things out as you go along. We're always making stuff up as we go along to some extent. leaning on our past experiences, our past stories, and then learning from the people around us. Really fascinating story. I hope you got a lot out of it. And that is it for this episode of the CMO Show. Of course, we love to get your input. Love to hear about any other guests you think we should be speaking to very soon. And if you like this episode, please share it with somebody that you think might be interested. So that's it for this time on the CMO Show. We'll see you soon. The CMO Show is produced by ImpactInstitute in partnership with Adobe. ImpactInstitute is a professional services firm for purpose-led organisations. Our unique blend of impact consulting, brand storytelling, and event services help our clients create meaningful change. This episode of the CMO Show was brought to you by your host, Mark Jones, that's me, and producers Kate Zadell and Kirsten Babels. Our audio engineers are Ed Chang and Daniel Marr. And a quick shout out to Adobe Experience Cloud, which gives digital businesses everything they need to design and deliver great customer experiences. Visit business.adobe.com to learn how Adobe can help transform your business.